Hey, international entrepreneurs. Bom dia, boa tarde, ou boa noite, wherever you may be. Welcome to From Rio to ROI, the channel that helps international entrepreneurs do business either with Brazil or in Brazil. Now, one of the questions that I frequently come up against is, what does it cost to live inside of Brazil? What's a good salary to earn here in Brazil? Now, that's a bit of a complex question because it depends a lot on many things, such as your lifestyle. Are you the type of person who loves to spend, 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 or are you more thrifty? Would you be coming to Brazil by yourself, or would you be bringing your family? So there are a lot of factors to take into the equation here, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to give you guys a base from which to work on, right? Another factor that I didn't mention was it actually depends on which part of Brazil you're going to live. You will find that there are some regions of Brazil where it's cheaper to live when compared to others. I'll give you a brief example. If you, for example, want to move to Sao Paulo is actually one of the most expensive places, in my opinion, to live when compared to other regions. I have found that typically when you move more inland to the interior of the country, it gets cheaper, right? Also, for example, I will give you a base from right where I live here in the state of Santa Catarina in Florianopolis, right? Now, here in Brazil, Florianopolis is considered to be one of the most expensive capital cities to live here in Brazil. Um, and that is true, generally true, although coming from a country in the Caribbean, as some of you may or may not know, I am originally from an English speaking country called Trinidad and Tobago. And in Trinidad and Tobago, the cost of living there is very high. It's very high, right? So by the time I got here to Florianopolis, when I returned earlier this year, to me, it was Florianopolis was a bargain, right? And I'm talking everything from the cost of rent to the cost of food to the cost of utilities, right? So I'm just going to give you guys a base from which to start doing your calculations, right? So comparatively speaking, I am using, you guys may or may not know from my past videos, I'm a big numbers guy. So I've got my trusty data and statistics here. Well, more data, right? So I'm just going to briefly give you some of the information from here, but also from my personal experience, right? So I'm going to start with probably the biggest cost, which is housing, right? Rent. What can you expect? Now, before I get into this, here's where rent really matters. If you're an international entrepreneur and you're thinking about coming to Brazil, it really matters whether you have your permanent residency or not. And here's why. When you go out hunting, searching for apartments, right? One of the things that you'll typically find that the real estate agencies and the landlords will ask you, okay, are you a permanent resident? And that's important because the rental contracts, typically you find here that the agencies like to do longer term contracts and not shorter term contracts, right? So typically, in order to fill out these contracts, you will need to have information such as your permanent residency, your RNE number, right? And you need to have that information ready. Um, Typically, if you don't have this, you find that you will be only limited to Airbnbs, which is going to be ridiculously high, as I'm sure a lot of you know, right? So, in order to access some of the more cost effective options, you really need to have your permanent residency, right? And it's thanks to this permanent residency that I have that I was actually able to, together with my wife and my son, we snagged a nice apartment here in a part of the island here of Santa Catarina, here in Florianopolis. We live in a part. We live on in a part of the island which is fairly remote, but the rent is really good. We pay on average, I think it's about in US dollars, about 250 to 275 US dollars equivalent rent for an excellent place. Bedrooms, a bath. It's two bedrooms, bath, a really nice yard. it's all good. And that's actually including the water utility. It's built into that, right? Speaking of utilities, we pay on average, in terms of US dollars, for phone and internet, roughly 20 US dollars. And the internet is ridiculously, mind-blowingly fast. We get about 600 megabits per second, right? For 20 US dollars, you can't go wrong with that. Electricity comes in at roughly about the same 20 US dollars. We don't use that much. Looking at other costs of groceries, for example, typically we do two types of groceries. You'll find here in Brazil, a lot of Brazilians do this. They do three types of grocery shopping here in Brazil. They do the monthly shopping, which is done at the Atacadista. So sort of like I guess in the United States, you'll call it Costco or Sam's Club. Then we do the weekly and shopping, which is done at the little supermarket here, and sometimes a daily, right? In total, maybe for the month, we would probably spend about groceries for three of us, two adults and a kid, maybe about 250, 300 US dollars in total, right? Okay, so other things. Oh, school, right? So we're getting ready to send our son to a private school, and actually today I just got the information back, so the quotation for the private school, and we're looking at paying per month somewhere around 275 US dollars, more or less, and that is excellent. That is an excellent price for very high quality education, by the way, guys. I'll have you know. I'm going to do another video about that, right? About the education here in Brazil, public and private. Okay, let's move on. Transportation. Well, we don't have a car here, right? Because we feel as though we don't need one, simply because we have Uber and 99 taxis, and those are incredibly cheap to use. We did the calculation, and to us, it just makes more sense to use one of these apps instead of having the cost of a car. However, if you wanted to have a car, I can tell you that's probably one of the more expensive things here to have and operate in Brazil, is having a vehicle, right? Gas prices fairly high. They're in line with Trinidad and Tobago, probably a little lower than the United States, but I will probably do another video to get into that. The cost of going out for a meal to a restaurant. At the average in an expensive restaurant, you're talking about $5, $6, right? If you want a meal for two people in a mid-range restaurant, you're talking about 32 US dollars. McDonald's, oh yeah, the average McDonald's combo meal, it's about $6.50. Yeah, a domestic beer we have here at $2.19. What else? Yeah, I've also found that, as I mentioned before, a lot of these prices that I'm seeing here on the site, which I will put down in the link below, I have actually found there are some discrepancies here, meaning the information I'm seeing on this website is actually higher than what I'm accustomed to seeing here on the ground, right? So I would definitely say, all in all, you can move here to Brazil. If you're a single person, you can definitely get by easily and very comfortably on around anywhere, I would say, between 1,500 US dollars to 1,700 US dollars. Now, you could actually push that down even more as a single person. Quite frankly, if I was single, 1,000 US dollars here, I would live almost like a king. And I'm being honest. What I pay for rent, what I pay in utilities, what I get in food, I think at 1,000 US dollars for a single person, you would have left over, right? And after paying utilities, everything like that. One of the great things is that I think personally here in Brazil, particularly here in Santa Catarina, that you can pay for private healthcare and healthcare insurance, although, as I've mentioned in my video before this, I'm going to put a link up here to this video. I have found that the public health here is incredible. The service is incredible. Everything about it, the infrastructure, the actual physical buildings are also new. And the service, I just can't stop talking about it, all right? But anyway, as the point of this video I wanted to make is that if you're coming here as a single, depending on your lifestyle, between 1,000 to 1,500 per month as a single, and maybe as a family of 3, I'd say about $2,000, and you're easily going to enjoy life here. Okay, so guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Click like and subscribe, and also stay tuned to this channel because I'm going to be bringing a lot more information for international entrepreneurs who want to do business either with Brazil or inside of Brazil.